All right, it is just after 5:21 in the Eastern time zone. In the Mountain time zone, it is 3:22. That's how we do math on this when it comes to time zone. I have a giant chart in front of me so I can try to never forget the time zone changes. But some wild changes in the NFL. Well, I guess not really wild because Jamie Thomas predicted it last week with Matt Rule getting fired, the first coach to be fired in the National Hockey League. So that was pretty impressive that he was able to do that. But now, Matt Rule, the Carolina Panthers are terrible. They're last in, I pointed out all those different categories that they are last in. Last when it comes to quarterback rating, offensive efficiency, yards per game. They lost 25 games in a row and allowing 17 points. That's not a lot of That's not a lot of points, man. That is not a lot of points. As I bring in, I got to get the camera up here, my good friend, Jamie Thomas.
My man
joining us. And you called it last week. You said this guy's going to be the first guy fired. And when you look at those numbers, it's not really surprising. They were terrible.
Sorry, there's like a mini earthquake going through my house here as I try and adjust my camera to fit the screen here. Hold on.
There we go. There you're golden. You're golden pony boy.
Yeah, I'm so glad I was accurate on who was going to get fired first. I went to bed last night, woke up this morning going, I am so thankful that I can predict which coach is going to get fired first. So thank you for pointing that out to everybody. And it was almost like an obvious thing, right? Whatever Carolina did, they just never looked like they're going in the right direction at all. So David Tepper, the owner, has some serious work ahead of him as he tries to restore the Carolina Panthers to a half-decent franchise. Not the easiest thing in the world to do, but unfortunately for Matt Rule, his NFL calling is not there, but I'm sure he'll have a college job sometime down the road here.
Yeah, and it's just college coaches struggle in the NHL. It's like rinse and repeat. It happens very, very often because, as you mentioned, personalities are totally different. So not surprising, I don't think, there, and we'll see what else happens. But, man, baseball was ridiculous over the weekend. Like, listen, the wild card format is a win for me. I know some teams might not like it, but it's better than one game. I thought it was terribly exciting, and I think the only thing that would be better is if you could somehow go do some home and homes, but the travel is just too crazy to do that. But now we have a bit better of a postseason picture. So let's talk about the three things you learned from the Major League Wild Card weekend.
Yeah, the format was incredible. And I was all for, that one game playoff for the wild card spot to get into the playoffs. That was fantastic on the Tuesday and the Wednesday after the regular season. But if you're going to add more teams in and you want more drama, one game just isn't enough. So the fact that they did it, all three games in one team's building or stadium, and the fact that three road teams won. So that disputes the whole, the home team advantage thing. Well, if you finish higher than somebody, there's got to be some advantage someplace. But it didn't work out for three of the four home teams. And there was drama every night. And I know, you look at Cleveland, Tampa Bay, it was a sweep, but they're both decided by one run, and one of them was in 15 innings, and it was a walk-off. So there was plenty of drama to be found. We don't really need to go over the Blue Jays, what happened to them, but that's drama. If you're a Seattle Mariners fan or a fan of baseball and comebacks, that was amazing. And then just to have a series for the New York Mets and to have them in there, and it was the only 3-game series that went down. It had all kinds of drama. So, and the fact that the Mets, and I know I'm going to get this in a second, but you can't win a series where Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom are your first two starters.
Yeah,
I mean that's so Mets. That is so New York Mets, but it's still that's number 3. We don't want to jump the format here at all, but the format rocked. It was amazing, and let's do it again next year. So that was fantastic. Analytics suck in baseball. Analytics, for the most part, I'm not a big fan of. I still understand its place in sports. There's the nerd herd here in Winnipeg that work for the Jets. They do a fantastic job. But when it comes to Kevin Gossman was brought in for this type of situation to win the big game. You got the 2 outs, and you want him to close out the inning. And just the overthinking that goes on in something that doesn't need to happen. A guy's making 18 to 19 million. That's his job, to finish off the deal. So why are you? And I understand his replacement didn't give up a whole lot of home runs, and it just sucks. Gausman got those. He had loaded the bases, got the 2 outs, and then you pull him from the game, and that doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm sure Schneider will be sitting there looking at this a little bit later, maybe overthinking this, but that's why analytics suck. And then last but not least, the Mets. Man, they're left to wonder. Like it was a magical ride for them all year long. They spent a lot of money. The ownership group has kind of got things right. It was exciting in New York. They had home field advantage. I already said Scherzer and DeGrom on the mound, and that's just seemed that should be enough to win a best out of 3 series. But I think if you're any team and anybody that was eliminated in the wild card round, it's the Mets. And it sucks what happened to the Blue Jays, and there's lots of what ifs, but that team was built to me to win in the postseason in the New York Mets, and they didn't do it. And that to me was the biggest failure. But you can't be upset in postseason baseball because it's the best teams. Mm-hmm. So I understand that the Padres didn't have the best record and they struggled after they made the big trade and everything, but it's still, you can't be upset how those things happen because just anything can happen, and someone's pitching can be unreal one day. And even though you're looking behind their ears for whatever it is, or any type of illegal substances. But I understand when people get frustrated, but it's the best teams that are left over. Your team's not always going to win. And it's terrible what happened to Blue Jays to be up 8-1. But you just didn't – when you were watching that game, did you feel comfortable? I did not. Like if I'm sitting there going 8-1, okay, it's still lots of time left. But when that home run went over to make it 8-4, I'm like, oh – not so fast, my friend. And the way the Mariners have fought and clawed their way back in the playoff picture, that's the last team you want to be sitting there ahead of in that format. So I don't know, man. I've just seen so many things melt apart in the Toronto market. You just never feel comfortable.
Well, the Mets, first of all, they blew the division, so they have nobody to blame but themselves. They blew the division with Scherzer and DeGrom, and then they lost this series with Scherzer and DeGrom against the Padres team that did everything to not make the playoffs. So the Mets have nobody to blame but themselves, and I don't know what you're talking about. How did you not think it was over at 8-1? Like, I didn't even, when he went out and took out Gausman, I didn't even think it was going to matter because it was 8-1. Sure, he shouldn't have done it. It's Kevin Cash all over again. Remember Kevin Cash? That's why the Dodgers have a title, because he went with the analytics instead of the feel. My father-in-law, we were talking about it last night, and he said, does no manager manage by feel anymore? And I don't know. It's certainly when decisions like that are made, it seems like the feel is taken out of the game.
I don't even know if guys manage anymore in baseball. I truly don't. I just think they're a face half the time. Decisions are being made for them most of the time. And there are a lot of managers in baseball that have a ton of experience, Buck Showalter, that don't need help. I'm sorry. It's just, in some situations, sure, if you're unfamiliar with something, but Buck Showalter has seen everything. Yeah. Like I'll even use Rick Bowness. What hasn't he seen?
Yeah. That expansion team to Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah.
Right. And how many different teams has he coached? He's been all over the NHL. He's played, and I just don't know with a decision like that. So I don't know. I think I've just seen too many meltdowns of all varieties for the Blue Jays, and they're young, and just what you can just tell where Seattle's a little bit different than they were. They just had something going on, and Toronto fought off a bunch of slumps during the season, but I just think they're still too young to be able to handle when things go wrong and sideways when they should feel entirely comfortable. I just think they were pressing too hard. We don't need to, Bo Bichette. I don't know why you're going into the outfield when to me, that's the center fielder's ball. Yeah. I can go down the list of the things that happen.
You're panicking.
Yeah, that's what young players do, and it's it's natural. You're not born with nerves of steel in that situation. You haven't been in it enough. That's what experience is. So, I mean, as soon as those things happen to younger teams, that's just what sports is. Experience is everything in every situation.
Well, Vlad Guerrero was right. The trailer was last year. This year was the movie, but nobody knew it was going to be a horror movie that was going to end so badly. But it is October, so 'tis the season. All right, so the baseball double now. This is an easy one. 2 teams you think are going to be in the World Series.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the American League. And I know the romantic way to think of this would be the New York Yankees, but Houston, to me, you got Justin Verlander starting game 1 of the ALDS, and he's on 6 days rest. And I think his numbers are just disgusting when he has that much rest. So it's already 1-0 for Houston in that series. And I know Seattle, it's a great story, and they came back and they fought their way in the playoffs. But no, it's just Bregman and Jose Altuve had an incredible second half. Those two at the top of the Astros order are dangerous. They'll cause problems for Seattle. They'll cause problems for whoever they play in the American League Championship Series. It just seems like Houston is meant. They're the best team in the American League. I don't think there's any question about it. And the Dodgers, to me, there's 3 reasons. And I'm going to go by first name, Mookie, Trey, and Freddie. Those 3 at the top of the Dodgers order are wreckers. Like this, you can't get through all 3 of them without damage being done. And if I look further down the road, the Dodgers' top 3 starters, or the way they're going right now, are all lefties, and the Astros hit the crap out of lefties this year. But we're not going to talk about the prediction who's going to win this whole thing. It's just Dodgers and Astros. They're playing into November. I don't see how this goes any differently. Sure, the Padres are building off a lot of momentum right now, but the Dodgers beat the crap out of them in the regular season. They're in their heads. They're going to need – Yu Darvish is going to have to be unreal for them to even have a hope. And I get that they built this roster for this situation to go head-to-head with the Dodgers, but please, move over. Like Juan Soto, yeah, okay, fine. It was a great trade. You kind of started to turn things around a little bit. But, man, I'm sorry. It's just the big brothers in California beat on the little brother. It's science. That's what's going to happen. Dodgers, Astros, book it. Don't put your house on the line or anything like that, but just Dodgers and Astros.
Well, it's the revenge tour too, right? You've got Dodgers, Yankees, and they've got a great series coming out about the 78 to 80 Dodgers Yankees rivalry with Reggie. So that storyline is great. Or you have the give us our trophy that you stole back in 2017 against the. So it's a great story as long as the Dodgers get there. And 111 wins. This is the quietest 111 win team I've been hearing about because there were so many other incredible stories. Nobody was talking about just how the Dodgers were just absolutely just destroying teams down the stretch, including the Padres. Yeah,
and I think the home run, things that were going on with Aaron Judge, of course, and Albert Pujols, that totally distracted everybody to how dominant a season this was for the Dodgers. And maybe people are just like, oh, it's just the Dodgers again. I don't know. It's the same way Connor McDavid's like, oh, Connor McDavid's the best player in hockey again. I don't know if he should be the Hart Trophy winner, but that's another debate for another time because I just get mad when people try and tell me anything differently about that situation. It's like, oh, I can't. I'll just go on a tangent.
60 goals. Yeah, 60 goals. Yeah, whatever.
60 goals. Yeah, forget it. Anyways.
I'm with you. Okay.
He's going to score 70 this year, Dean. Did you know that? Did you know he's going to score 70 this year? How can you stop him?
If he does score 70, then I would probably look to it, unless McDavid has like 180 points or something like that. So
yeah.
Anyway, those guys aren't underrated, but there is our question of the day was who's an underrated fantasy football player. This is a great choice that you have here, Ramondre Stevenson of the Patriots. I mean. I said it, if you were in a coma for the last 10 years and you woke up and looked at the AFC East standings, you'd be like, what the hell is going on? Why are the Patriots sucking? But they're not sucking when it comes to fantasy production from the RB23 and CBS Standard Leagues.
Right. And Ramondre's, I'm only saying this because of what's going on right now. And I'm not saying underrated from a whole, piece of the pie thing situation. I'm talking about right now. Only because... as you know, anybody to do with a New England Patriot running back, you want to stay the hell away from in fantasy football. It's just because it's just the running back by committee. But it's war of attrition right now because there's guys like Damian Harris is nicked up. Ramondre Stevenson is the only healthy guy right now, and you saw it yesterday. New England went up against the top scoring offense in football, and I can't believe I'm saying it. It's hard to say without smiling. The Detroit Lions had the best offense in football heading into yesterday's game. They get shut out in total Lion fashion. And you know what, they just kept giving the rock to Ramondre Stevenson. And if they don't have that running back by committee, this is a guy they're leaning on. Zappi was their starting quarterback. So what are you going to do if you're Bill Belichick? You're going conservative and you're going to run the football and you're going to lean on your defense. That's exactly what happened. And that's pretty much what the formula is going to be for Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots for the rest of this season, because they just, until Mac Jones gets a little bit better, but they just do not have a good offense. They have a great defense, and if they can control the game on the ground and eat up some clock, which they're going to do with Ramondre Stevenson, you might have yourself a little blue chip player week after week, as long as Damian Harris stays out of the picture in New England.
All right, the NHL season is on us tomorrow. You, of course, are part of the Winnipeg Jets radio broadcast in the Central Division, and one of the teams we focused on today was the St. Louis Blues. And I think this team is dominant, man. Like, this team is built to win and beat you up and provide a lot of fantasy talent. I mean, like Braden Shen and Ryan O'Reilly, these guys are second and third line gems in fantasy, and you get to see this Blues team a lot. How good are they in person?
They're just, I recall a game when they came to Winnipeg last year, Dino, and it was, overtime, 3-on-3 is fantastic. It was the first time I've seen it in a long time. They didn't have a lot of chances, but all they did was control the puck. It was actually pretty frustrating to watch, because if they didn't like what they saw, they would just go back in the neutral zone. Ryan O'Reilly would swoop back. Jordan Kyrou would swoop back. Robert Thomas, they would just keep going into the offensive zone. Oh, I don't like it. They'd go back to the offensive zone. It was all about puck possession. I don't even know if the Jets touched the puck that much outside of Connor Hellebuck. They end up winning the game. But you're right. They are big. There's a reason why I believe the Jets will end up going with Logan Stanley and Dylan Sandberg and Saku Menelainen on their roster. They need size because the Central Division is heavy. St. Louis is one of those reasons. The Jets play St. Louis the third week of October, their third home game of the month. And those games are something else to watch. There's lots of stuff going on at all time. Even if it's a 1-0 game, there's great goaltending. There's lots of hitting. They don't like each other. They're some of the funnest games that I get to watch, but St. Louis is a legit, Stanley Cup contender, somebody the Jets are going to have to deal with and beat if they want to get in that top three in the Central Division in order to get a better positioning in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But it is going to be a lot of fun. You got Nashville, you got St. Louis, you got the Jets, you got Dallas. Colorado, like Dallas, and we won't even talk about the other three because they're just not worth talking about. But those five are going to make things very interesting throughout the regular season, and I think that the Central could very well have 5 teams again in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah,
I think it's the most competitive division. I think it's so tough. And, the Blues are a team, like if you're brand new to hockey, I tried to get Mooch to take the Blues. He ended up going with Detroit, which is, hey, that's a good franchise as well. Stevie Y, Original Six. But I tried to get him to go with the Blues because they're not the most popular. St. Louis isn't the biggest market, but they had such a great story with Gloria when they won the Cup and Berube, and this team is tight and fun to watch. So if you're new to hockey, the St. Louis Blues are a great team to say, I'm going to watch these guys because you're going to be entertained. And correct me if I'm wrong, that building is pretty fun to be in.
Oh, it's a great building, and it was that building where Patrick Laine had his 5-goal game too.
That's right.
I've been to St. Louis enough time. A great hockey city, like great fans. They're a heavy team. They're built to play deep into May. That's how this team is built. Great coaching staff. Like it's a well-run organization. One of the Jets' top rivals. So a lot of respect for the St. Louis Blues. And if you want to go anywhere in the Central, you got to get through St. Louis.
Okay, so lastly, you just brought up Laine. We had Larry Fisher on earlier, and he said if Laine, yeah, exactly, the encyclopedia, hockey encyclopedia. And for kids that don't know what an encyclopedia is, just ask your parents because there's no encyclopedias anymore. Like
they might have one in the basement. You never know.
What happened to encyclopedia salesmen? Like they don't exist anymore. It's weird.
I know.
But anyway,
you can't even lie to your kids anymore, Dino, because they just look up stuff online. Before you can just say, just look it up in the encyclopedia.
Yeah,
the Encyclopedia Britannica will have all your answers.
Go get A, and we'll go through A. We'll start at alligator, and then we'll go through the list or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Laine, all in.
Yeah, Larry thinks Laine could get 50. Johnny Gaudreau's there. You've seen Patrick Laine. Obviously, maybe one of the streakiest scorers. I mean, that one year he had so many in November and then not anymore. Do you think Laine has the potential to get 50?
He always does. As long as, Johnny Gaudreau will change a lot of things for him. Somebody to actually get him the puck. They do have a lot of skill in Columbus. You have to wonder if there's enough where they can just focus on, Jacob Vorkacek's always there to help out and so on and so forth. But I think Laine will always have that ability if A, he can stay healthy, and B, somebody's feeding him the puck properly. Because I'm sorry, it hasn't been for Laine. He doesn't have Blake Wheeler feed him those beautiful passes through the seam right now. And I know that could change with Johnny Gaudreau. I hope so, because he is so much fun to watch, and even in a one-on-one situation, anything can happen. He is one of those guys where you could pay money to. It's unfortunate things didn't work out here, but the Jets have some pretty good players thanks to that trade, and they'll go on from it. But Patrick Laine will always be one of my favorite players to watch.
Beauty, my man. Enjoy the game tonight. This is going to be a fun game. I mean, my fantasy matchup tonight, I've got both running backs, Jacobs and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm going up against Mahomes and Waller. So, I'm sweating because it's close. This is a great Monday Night Football matchup just to watch, and I'd imagine there's a lot of fantasy matchups on the line going into this game with so many weapons.
Yeah, especially with Patrick Mahomes, who just feasts on the Raiders. So there will be a lot of points tonight. There will be a lot of close finishes, especially for you in your game as well. But man, it's anytime it's the Raiders and Chiefs, it's so much fun. Still love that Christmas commercial from NFL.com. Remember the one with the guy who's dating a girl, who's going to dinner to meet the girl's parents, and they're all Chiefs fans. He's wearing the Raiders sweater, and the lights go on. She's like, "Shut it off! Shut it off!" He's like, "I can't."
It keeps lighting because they keep getting touchdowns. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. One of the best commercials ever.
Yeah. It'll be an entertaining game tonight. Thanks as always, my man. Enjoy the season that gets underway, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, see you next Monday, pal.
You betcha. There's Jamie Thomas of Jets TV and the executive director of our Twitch channel here at UFF Sports. Always fun to catch up. What a good day today. Larry Fisher, Jamie Thomas. It's Canadian Thanksgiving, Monday Night Football tonight, the eve of the Stanley Cup season. Man, is it going to be awesome.
My man.
That was my man, Jamie Thomas, who just joined us on the show.